Let me be crystal clear. This is not news. This is my opinion, and I'm not spreading it as news. In my opinion, we are looking at another deep state fraud being perpetrated on the American voters and our freedoms and liberties. We're seeing state after state after state where Donald Trump was leading, votes are popping up, and now these states are not counting anymore. Georgia stopped counting last night. Pennsylvania stopped counting. Nevada just said that they're not going to announce anymore for 24 hours. 140,000 votes pop up somewhere. So I continue to remain committed to the belief that Donald Trump has won. To give you another perspective on that, I'm joined by my usual Wednesday contributor, Xen Sams. Supermodel, supermom, producer, activist, investigative reporter, everything and all. Everything and more, I should say. Xen, give me your take. You come from the Hollywood world. You should skew more left, but I know you're objective. What do you think is happening right now?
Well, separate of the fraud taking place, this Pennsylvania fiasco is going to turn into a huge, huge deal breaker, especially once people are exposed to the fraud that's taking place. You know, this is these mail-in ballots, 1 million unaccounted for still, and they continue to just, like you said, we're going to stop counting. The Supreme Court will decide, so I have faith in the powers that be. But right now, there's so much unrest, and the National Retail Federation, which counts 18,000 businesses amongst its members, has been preparing for businesses for potential post-election disorder. And last week, the group held an online session about preventing and de-escalating conflict and basically how to prepare for potential for post-election unrest, which we are in right now. And there's certainly a chance that retailers could be facing property damage, threats and violence, no matter what happens, John. I mean, look, declining levels of trust in the country's institutions, coupled with heights of polarization, this combination of those two things combined with a country that is already on the edge over so many other issues, from racial injustice to the pandemic, presents a situation where there's the need to emphasize trust, calm, and patience.
There's no trust. There's no trust. There's no trust.
And what they're doing, no trust.
There's no trust. There's no trust in this system. We, the people, have been looking at these polls and talking to our friends and their wives and our black friends and our Spanish and Latino friends are all telling us, hey, a lot of people are liking what this guy did for this country. And at the same time, they keep telling us Joe Biden's going to win this thing. It's a blowout. And now on election night, when everything's going Trump's way, I mean, I think we're literally in, the early throes of a non-military coup, because it just don't go down this way in democracies.
Absolutely. And the fact that the numbers are so close, these pollsters, they need to find a new line of work. They messed up in 2016. They messed up again. They had it all wrong, and right now there's so much unrest that the Guardian Angels plan to have 4,000 members of its volunteer crime prevention group monitoring stores in commercial and residential areas in cities across the U.S., including New York City, Washington, Portland, Chicago, Denver, Tampa, Baltimore, Cleveland, you name it. So whether we will see a huge organized civil war type scenario,
it may, because, I don't know if you remember, but I mean, you're so much younger than me, but way back in the George Bush, Al Gore race, Florida was kind of coming down to one place, right? And I don't know, for you youngsters out there, they called it the hanging Chad election. And they used these cards where they punched a hole for your vote. And sometimes if they didn't disconnect, then they were counting, even if the paper was still connected, they were counting that as no vote because it wasn't completely perforated through. And what happened was a whole bunch of people, led by Roger Stone and others, literally swarmed the election booth, the polling place, and they locked it down. And so that they couldn't move the ballots, they couldn't touch the ballots. And I think people are so coiled up right now, and everybody saw what they were seeing last night, that I hate to say it, but I feel like it's going to cause more unrest in a bad way.
I do think that what we have is the human equivalent of a small bunch of brush fires all over the place. I don't think we'll have this ginormous, civil war. But like you said, he took Florida. That was a huge win. And now they're going to try to dispute that. Arizona, completely questionable because there's definitely fraud taking place there with the McCains of the world. So I don't want to get into, that's a different segment. But even Arizona, President Trump had Arizona in 2016. So what happened? I would love to see.
No, listen, someone that was on the kind of campaign call this morning relayed to me that they're still very confident that they're going to get Arizona. Because Maricopa County was one of the biggest counties there. And, you know, a lot of our viewers live out there in Arizona. Uncle Danny's out there. I talked to him the other day. He said he thought Maricopa was like 80-20 for Trump. And they called the state before they were even done counting Maricopa County, which is one of the biggest, if the biggest county, or one of the biggest, and Pima's down there. But so there's a lot of chicanery going on, Xen.
Yeah, it's a huge divide, John. You know, I mean, the Democrats might control the House, but we control the Senate. And right now, what we are facing in this country is a situation where normally what would be regarded as a small thing very rapidly could escalate into something that could be involving deadly force across the board, from brawls at the grocery store to cab rides to shopping malls. Retailers can face retaliation for asking someone to put on a face mask or choosing not to open its doors to shoppers. So, you know, right now we are at a very critical point in America, and it's very, very unnerving.
Well, the good thing is that if it's Wednesday, it's Xen's Day on Liquid Lunch, and that always brings a soothing feeling to me and many in the audience. Xen, just are you under my umbrella, Ella?
I'm under the umbrella. It's getting windy, but you know what? There's massive floods going on in my house, so I have to come do it outdoors. And yeah, this post-election violence, can you hear it? It worried 3 out of 4 voters, with just 1 in 4. And they're probably coming for me right now.
I bet.
Saying that they are very confident there will be a peaceful transfer of power.
Well, it doesn't look like it right now. It's peaceful, but there's no transfer of power going on, that's for sure. All right, my darling, you're in the city or you're in New Jersey?
I'm in the city right now. I'll be in New Jersey later on today.
All right, well, if there's anything happening in that city where they're boarding up, please come back and let us know. You're the bomb. Stay safe.
I will.
We love you.
John, take care.
Xen Sams from New York City.